I can still feel the weight of that robe on my shoulders. It was colorful, unique, a gift from my father, Jacob, the man who loved me more than I could understand at the time. My name is Joseph, and the story I'm about to tell you is not about a flawless hero. It's about a man who was broken over and over again, and still did not lose himself. I was the 11th of 12 sons. In Jacob's household, that meant a lot. It meant silent rivalries for attention. It meant hierarchy. It meant that each son knew exactly where he stood. But I was different in my father's eyes, and everyone knew it. And then the dreams came. They were not ordinary dreams. They were visions that came with a disturbing clarity, as if someone were showing me something that had not yet happened. In the first, my brothers and I were binding sheaves of wheat in the field. Suddenly my sheaf rose, and theirs bowed down before mine. In the second, the sun, the moon, and 11 stars were bowing down to me, and I told them. Maybe it was naivety. Maybe it was something I felt I needed to share, but the words left my mouth before I could weigh their impact. And my brothers' looks changed. Not all at once. It was gradual, like a flame slowly consuming everything. What was once distance turned into resentment. What was once silence turned into hatred. One day my father called me. "Joseph, your brothers are tending the flock near Shechem. Go to them and bring me news." I went. I walked for days. There was no urgency in my steps. I was simply a son obeying his father, but when I got close enough for them to see me from afar, they stopped, and I felt it, that silence before the storm. I heard fragments of their voices in the wind. "Look, the dreamer is coming, and let's kill him." Kill. The word fell on me like a stone, but Reuben, the eldest, spoke against it. "Let's not shed blood. Throw him into that pit." And that's what they did. Before I could react, hands seized me. Voices were shouting. My robe was torn from me with violence. And then emptiness. I was thrown into a dry pit. Down there, the darkness was complete. I screamed. I called out their names. I begged. And while I was crying out, they sat down to eat, as if I did not exist, as if that pit were just another part of the landscape. I cannot describe what it is like to hear your own brothers laughing while you are trapped in the dark. It is a pain that has no proper name. The dree! I heard footsteps, different voices, an Ishmaelite caravan passing along the road on its way to Egypt. And I heard Judah say, "What do we gain by killing our brother? Let's sell him." 20 pieces of silver. That was my price. Egypt was everything Canaan was not. The Nile River, vast and slow, the pyramids cutting into the sky, a civilization that functioned like a precise machine. And I was just another disposable cog in that machine. I was bought by Potiphar, captain of the guard of Pharaoh himself. Slave. The word weighed more than any chain. But I made a silent decision deep within myself. I will not let what they did to me define who I will be. So I worked, with everything I had, with integrity no one had asked of me, but that I did not know how to live without, and something began to happen. Scripture says that the Lord was with Joseph, and it showed in everything. The harvests prospered. The affairs of the household flourished. Potiphar noticed, and he put me in charge of everything he owned for the first time in years. I breathed, but life did not leave me in peace for long. Potiphar's wife began to look at me in a way I recognized well. It wasn't just curiosity, there was intention behind it. At first I tried to ignore it. I pretended not to notice, kept my distance and filled my mind with work. But it didn't stop. One day, she left no room for doubt. She was direct with me. She said exactly what she wanted, and I refused. It was not out of fear. It was not for lack of opportunity. It was because within me there was a very clear certainty. If I gave in, I would be betraying the man who had entrusted everything into my hands. I would be betraying who I had become. And above all, I would be betraying God, who never abandoned me, not even when everything around me fell apart. But she did not accept my answer. Day after day, she insisted, soft words, suggestive looks, constant attempts to wear me down. It was a silent, continuous pressure, like water striking stone trying to carve a way through, until the day came. The house was empty, too quiet. I went in only to carry out my duties, as I always did, but she was there, waiting. This time, there were no subtleties. She came closer and grabbed my garment, trying to pull me toward her. And in that moment, I understood there was no more room for dialogue. I pulled away with force. I refused again, clearly, firmly, leaving no doubt. And to get out of there, I had to leave my own garment behind, caught in her hands. I ran, but behind me came the scream, a loud, calculated scream, not of desperation, but of accusation. When they returned, she told her version of the story. She twisted everything. She said that I had tried to force her, and she used my garment, the one left in her hands, as evidence against me. I had no voice. Potiphar heard only one side. And in that moment, everything I had built collapsed, and I was thrown into prison. Have you ever felt like the more you try to do the right thing, the harder life hits you? I knew exactly what that felt like. The prison walls were cold, the air was heavy, the darkness was familiar. But once again, I chose not to fall apart. And once again, something happened. The chief guard noticed who I was, and he gave me responsibility over the other prisoners. It was there that I met two men from Pharaoh's palace, the chief cupbearer and the chief baker. Both had fallen from favor, and both had dreams on the same night, dreams that deeply troubled them. When I saw their troubled expressions, I asked what had happened. They told me, and I interpreted their dreams. I said to the cupbearer, "In 3 days, Pharaoh will restore you to your position." I said to the baker, "In 3 days, you will be executed." The 3 days passed. Everything happened exactly as I had said, and before the cupbearer was taken away, I asked him for just one thing. "Remember me when things go well for you. Mention my name to Pharaoh, for I was unjustly taken from my land." He nodded and left and forgot me. 2 years passed, 2 years of silence. Until Pharaoh dreamed, twice in the same night, 7 fat cows being devoured by 7 thin cows, 7 full ears of grain being swallowed by 7 withered ears. Pharaoh awoke troubled. He summoned all the magicians and wise men of Egypt. No one could interpret it. And it was then that the cupbearer remembered. There was a young Hebrew in prison. He interpreted my dream and the baker's, and everything happened just as he said. I was summoned in haste. I shaved, changed my clothes, and was brought before the most powerful man on earth. Pharaoh looked me in the eyes and said, "I have heard that you can interpret dreams." And I answered with something I never forgot to say all these years, "It is not I. God will give Pharaoh the answer." He told me the dreams, and I understood. The 2 dreams are one. God is showing Pharaoh what he is about to do. There will be 7 years of abundance throughout all Egypt, but then there will come 7 years of famine so severe that the abundance will be completely forgotten. There was silence in the hall. And then I said something no one had asked. Let Pharaoh choose a wise and discerning man and set him over Egypt. Let storehouses be built, and let 1/5 of all the harvest be stored during the good years. In this way, the people will survive the famine. Pharaoh looked at me for a long time. Then he turned to his servants and said, "Can we find anyone like this man, one in whom is the Spirit of God?" He took his ring from his finger and placed it on mine. From prisoner to governor of Egypt, at 30 years old, I had authority over the entire nation, second only to Pharaoh. I traveled throughout the land. I supervised the building of storehouses. I organized the storage of grain year after year. And when the famine came, Egypt was ready. People came from all over the world in search of food, and one day, 10 men came from Canaan. I recognized them even before they came near. My heart raced. They were my brothers. They bowed down before me with their faces to the ground without recognizing me, and I remembered the sheaves of wheat from the dream so many years ago. I could have taken revenge right there. I had all the power to do so, but revenge was not what I felt when I looked at them. It was pain. It was longing. It was an old wound I didn't know was still open. I tested them. I needed to know whether the men before me were the same ones who had thrown me into a pit, or if time had changed something in them. And what I saw gave me my answer. They were different. The weight of guilt was in them. The concern for Benjamin, my younger brother, was in them. The willingness to sacrifice their own freedom to protect another was in them. And then I could no longer hold it in. And I was left alone with them, and I wept. I wept so loudly that the Egyptians heard it outside, and through my tears I said, "I am Joseph. Is my father still alive?" Their silence was one of terror. They could not speak, and I stepped closer. "Come near to me." And then I said the words that changed everything. "Do not be distressed because you sold me. It was God who sent me ahead of you to preserve lives. You meant evil against me, but God turned it into good." In the end, I understood that not a single moment had been wasted. The pit taught me to survive in the dark. Slavery taught me to work with integrity without being asked. Prison taught me to serve even when I myself was broken. And the forgetting taught me to wait. Because there was a right time for everything. The pain was not the end of my story. It was the path that led me to my purpose. And if today you are in your pit, if you feel forgotten, falsely accused, tired of waiting, I want to tell you what I have learned. God is still writing, and what seems like the end sometimes is just the beginning.